All right, guys, Joe here, back again with another installment of my free online course in how to start your online coaching business. And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite pieces of this whole thing is sales and how to sell your online coaching. Now, to be completely honest, this is something that was very scary to me when I first started. I can completely appreciate if you're nervous to sell things, but in this video today, hopefully it's going to shed some light on why it's not that big a deal. It is completely critical to your business that you begin to master these skills, and it actually can be pretty fun. I mean, it's a way to meet new people and put your stuff out there, and if you believe strongly enough in what you're providing to people and helping them to better their life, from a health and wellness standpoint, you're going to want to learn this because it's going to be the linchpin piece that helps you to get your name out there and show the value in what you're offering. So I can only cover so much in this video. This is going to be a very high level overview. Obviously, I can't make it specific to everybody's needs or products and what they're selling or services, but hopefully some of the fundamentals in here that we cover are going to be helpful. Now, there are a number of books I'll have in the description below that you can check out that have helped me tremendously. And I know a lot of them have an audiobook option if you scoop them up. So I definitely would recommend that if you're someone who doesn't want to sit there flipping through pages the whole time. You just want to put it in your headphones and go for a walk, or maybe in the car, listen to it. That's what I usually do, and it's helped a ton. So I'll have links to some good books down below that can help you out with this a little bit further and dig into the specifics. But in the video today, we're going to be covering a whole number of things, and towards the end, I'm going to show you kind of like what you should focus on in order to make this work for you. But some stuff we're going to cover today are misconceptions in selling, your attitude, which is paramount in this whole piece, fundamentals of selling, the phases of a sale, what that looks like, time management, and it's not going to be what you think it is, a little bit of a different outlook on time management, and taking action. So let's hop right in. So first things first is misconception. So in your head, you might be thinking this, and I know I did when I first started, is sales is like a scummy thing. You think of that used car salesman, like greasy dude, his hair slicked back, and they're just out there trying to work you for your money. And that's not the case. It's unfortunate that there are, a few people out there who make sales feel like that, right? And you don't need to be that person. If you're out there and you truly mean well and you're offering a great product or service, there's no reason to feel like you're being scummy, and people should be paying you for what you're offering them because you're providing tremendous amounts of value to them and to their life. Another misconception is that you have to be pushy. You do not have to be pushy. Should you be aggressive in your efforts to get out there and get your name out there to sell what you're doing? Absolutely, right? No one's going to just show up at your door and just ask to buy your stuff. It's very rare. Even at this point now, I've been doing this for years. It's a little more rare that people are just like, call me up saying, hey, can I sign up? I might get a message every couple of weeks from somebody who says, hey, I really want to sign up, or they're on my website and they sign up. But more often than not, the bulk of the people that sign up with me are due to the fact that they've heard word of mouth from other people, or they've, I've reached out to them through various campaigns I do and whatnot, paid and unpaid, to get them to sign up. So don't feel like you have to be pushy when you're on the phone with that person. And we're talking about how to be on the, how you should be on the phone with them. But when it comes to your actual stuff and getting your name and your word out there, you should be aggressive, that's for sure. And the other misconception is no one's going to buy from you. So that's one you want to get rid of right away, because if you already think people aren't going to buy from you, then they're probably not going to buy from you. So we're going to talk about attitude and mindset in a minute. But there are plenty of people out there who will buy the product or service that you are offering. Now, if you went back and watched the previous videos I put together, we talk about how to niche down and how to find a group of people that are willing to buy your stuff, right? If you're solving a very specific problem and you're the authority in that space, then you're the go-to person, and they're going to want to buy from you because they've got some issue they can't resolve. They can't find someone who has the answer, and you do. You're going to be that golden ticket. And I bet you, if you've set up your stuff like we talked about to this point, they're already gonna be a very hot lead. Like, they basically all they need to do is get on the phone with you and hear a couple things, make sure you're like a real human being, and they're gonna want to buy. So get it out of your head now that people don't want to buy from you, because it's just not the truth. There's so many people out there that are willing to spend money, even during the times we're going through now. The time of this video, there's a coronavirus going on. People are spending money. If you look at e-commerce, is through the roof right now. People are stuck at home. They're still spending money. So don't think that because of the economy or the market or blah, 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 whatever, the only thing holding back, those sales from coming in is you. So don't feel like people will not buy from you, because they absolutely will if you're putting your word out there and you know how to sell your services. Now, the reality is, sales is not a scummy thing. 1/4 of the entire workforce on the planet works in sales. So, professionally, for to whatever degree, if they're very professional what they do or not, most people work in sales. And if you go ask your family members or friends, chances are there's somebody who is a direct salesperson, or works with a sales organization or something. It's very close to home for everybody because so many people do it. So don't think that it's only something that greasy people do. It's not the case. Almost everybody that is involved in or knows somebody in sales. And truthfully, everybody's a salesperson, right? Everything you do in your life is a sale. If you want somebody to agree with you, if you want to get your way in one way or another, you have to sell your opinion. You have to sell your point of view, and you do this every day. I mean, you're in negotiations every day, whether you know it or not. Think about your significant other if you have one. I mean, you had to sell yourself in a way to make sure they saw the value in who you were and decided to sign up to date you, basically. So in one way or another, you are involved in some sort of sales situation probably every single day, if not a number of times every single day, and you are around it all the time. So the skill of learning how to sell, the skill of learning how to negotiate is important, not just for what you're doing in your online business, but for your success as an individual. If you want to push ahead and get to that next level in your life or career, you're going to want to know how to sell. And if nothing else, just to understand when you're in a situation like that and how you can handle yourself. And honestly, it's a very simple process. So you might hear stuff out there about you got to use neuro-linguistic programming and all kinds of crap like that. You don't. You just need to make sure you do the few things we're going to talk about in this video today, and it can make the sales process very simple. And if you have a great service and you're really passionate about what you're doing and you're staying positive, like we're going to talk about, it's just going to be fuel in the fire and make your sales system very, very simple and very, very effective. So let's move into our next piece. Attitude is everything. I cannot stress this enough. If you are somebody who is inherently negative, or you surround yourself with negative people, right, and nothing ever goes your way and there's always a cloud of doom hanging over your head, you gotta ditch that. And I would stay on this slide in the video until you get that sort of squared away. And I've got some books again down below in the description that are going to help with this. But if your attitude is crummy, chances are when you get on the phone with someone, you're not going to be able to convey how passionate you are, how awesome your services are, if you are just an inherently negative person. And we're going to talk about why staying positive is important outside of that as well. But first thing you want to recognize is that people can shop for products, right? They can shop for a weight loss system online. They can shop for coaches. They can shop for a new car. They can shop for whatever they want, right? There's so many things out there people can spend their money on. They can shop products and they can price cut each other and find the cheapest thing. What they can't shop is attitudes. So if you're somebody who has a great attitude and you're very positive and you believe in these people you want to work with, they're going to want to work with you because they're going to see you actually care. That human connection, that human relationship is a lot more valuable than just the product or the service that you're selling. So, when you get on the phone with people and you're putting your thing together and you're trying to sell it, or you're making content for what you're doing, it's not your magic program you wrote that they're buying. They're buying you. If you think about it, when you think about things you've purchased in the past, right? You might have gone to, a store to buy something, and the person helping you out was kind of like, oh yeah, you could do that, that's cool, whatever, blah blah blah. And you're like, all right, well, this isn't really helping me, right? It doesn't matter to me. Or you go to another place and the person's all jazzed up and they're asking you about what your needs are and what are you going to use the product for, and they actually start to suggest a different model, and it might be more expensive, might be less expensive, but the fact that they took the time and they had a good attitude, might bring you to go back to that store time and time again. So you want to think about what your attitude is like. Are you positive, and are you conveying that on the phone when you speak to these people and you're trying to sell your services? Next is to create a positive environment. You should be surrounding yourself with positivity all the time. Now, I'm not saying it needs to be sunshine and rainbows coming out your ass every single day, but I would avoid things that are inherently negative. So for instance, I don't watch the news, right? It's just very negative, very fear-based. I think it's a waste of time, right? I don't watch a ton of TV, and if I do, it's typically things that are, like documentaries. I'm learning about how people are, extreme athletes become successful, or business people become successful, or I'm watching things where people are overcoming challenges and things like that, which is more positive than if you're watching, the Real Housewives of Orange County, where they're always just fighting and yelling at each other. So you want to try and create a positive environment. Another one is like when I'm in the car, I typically will listen to a podcast or an audio book or something like that, just to keep reinforcing that positivity. If you go back and watch some of the earlier videos I did one on goals and affirmations and mindset. That's a huge one too, to keep creating that positive environment. So if you can perpetuate that throughout the day, when it comes to hop on the phone and actually sell your services, you're already in that headspace anyway. So you want to create that positive environment. Next one is to always agree. Now, this is not the customer is always right, but you always want to agree with the people that you're talking with on the phone. And we're going to talk about this in the next few slides we get into, but you want to kind of have your head in the right space before you start the conversation, that you're going to agree with the person on the phone. Now, what do I mean by that? It's not a, when they say something to the effect of like, hey, your price is really high, like, well, no, it's not. And you start arguing with them. People are not going to buy from people that argue with them, right? Or disagree with them. If you think about the people that are closest to you in your life are generally the people that you agree with the most, typically on, just perspectives, like if it's politics or religion or whatever, or their view on certain things, right? Maybe it's their view on fitness or nutrition. You're going to gravitate toward people that you tend to agree with more. So if somebody were on the phone with you saying, hey man, your price is really high, sir, my price is really high, that's right. And I actually have clients that pay more than that. You're agreeing with them. It's just a way to smooth over the conversation and bridge the gap to the next piece. And it shows that you're not avoiding what they're saying. So you just want to make sure that you're always agreeing. Yep, that's right. I agree. I see what you're saying. That makes sense. All those kinds of things, because the more agreeable you can be, the more likely they are to buy from you. Next is positive communication. You always want to make sure your communication is positive with these people. If you get on the phone and you say something that could be construed as demeaning, or it's just not nice, or maybe it's you slagging off some other coach, you don't want to do that. So don't get on the phone and say, oh yeah, you worked with such and such, oh their program sucks and blah blah blah. That's negative. You don't need that. What you need to do is focus on the person you're talking to, talk to them in a positive way, agree with them, and show that you're there to help them out and help them reach the goal that they're trying to get to. And you always want to stay positive. Last bit here, you always want to stay positive in the face of fear and rejection. It's very intimidating to get on the phone with somebody and sit through a sales call and constantly have in the back of your mind that they're going to maybe reject what you're saying, or tell you your stuff sucks or it's no good. And it doesn't matter, right? Because that person's probably not going to buy from you anyway. So who cares? You can't let that get to you, and you just roll off your back, and you will find the people that will buy from you. The more that you make these calls, and the more you reach out, and the more you put your name out there. I know some people refer to it as like kissing frogs, right? You got to kiss a lot of frogs to find the prince. Well, this is the case with sales. You're, for every, 50 calls you have, I'm just putting numbers out there, maybe every 10, 20, 50 calls you have, you might get one person that signs up. But if you don't take those other 49 calls, you're not going to find that one person. So you need to make sure that, when you get off the phone and someone says, I'm not interested right now, or they give you some like BS objection, I have to talk to my wife or whatever, don't think that that's a knock on you. It's maybe their insecurity to sign up. Maybe they're just not ready. I've had plenty of people I've talked to on the phone the first, even second time around. They're like, hey, I'm not interested right now, whatever. But 2, 3, 6 months later, they call me up and say, hey man, I'm ready now. I wasn't ready back then, but now I'm good to go. And I want to get started on the program. So don't think it's it's a knock on you. Like, yes, is it up to you to make the sale? For sure. But some people just aren't ready to buy right now. And it doesn't mean that you're, a bad person or anything like that. So definitely, stay positive, stay persistent, and you're going to push through and be a lot more successful with all this. So sales fundamentals, let's get into it. These are the basic phases of a sales call. And what you're going to experience. Now, I would say first and foremost, if you're just getting started off with your online coaching, you need to take your sales on a phone call. You need to call these people on the phone, or have them call you. Use softwares like Schedule Once or Calendly or things like that to schedule in these sales calls or, even just a Google Calendar invite. But you need to get on the phone and show them, that you're a human being, that you're real, and they're not buying something. When it comes to very low ticket offers, like maybe it's a pre-written program that you're just kind of putting out into the market, whatever, that's something where you could have a funnel and, people can just, hop in, sign up, put their credit card in, boom, done. Because those are gonna be low ticket offers, right? Maybe you're selling it for 30, 40, 50 bucks, not a lot of money. But if you wanna sell a very personalized custom program, where it's very high touch, high communication, and you're gonna be charging, $200, $300, $400, $500, you need to put in that time with these people and get over your fear of them saying no and talk to them. So you can't just hide behind a sales funnel and hope that they're going to buy that stuff every time. Because if you're going to be working with them anyway, they need to know who you are and what you're all about. So I put together some phases here of what a typical sales call looks like. Now, if you notice, I put some times next to each of these. These are relative. Sometimes they'll be longer, sometimes they'll be shorter. But the point of doing that is to show you, like, these don't have to be 2-hour long sales calls. You don't have to do the old school, like, oh, well, if I average, 8 hours of contact with this person, then they'll say yes. You don't. If you have enough value in what you're doing and you can convey that value, convey your confidence in what you're doing and your positivity, and show that you want to get them the results and you're going to get them the results that they want. I've had sales calls that have been 4 minutes or less. They explain what they want. I explain what I do. They're like, hey, it sounds great. Cool. Let's do it. Bang, sign up. So don't feel like, this needs to be this like huge, ridiculous thing. It does not need to be that. So let's get into the phases here. So the greeting, typically when you're starting out, this might be people that you already know. So the greeting is just like a, hey, how you been? Whatever, that's fine. But when it's a stranger, it needs to be brief. You don't want to get stuck in this whole like talking about the weather and where they're from and where they work and all these things. You need to get to the point, get on with it. Don't drag it on, because in the back of their head, they're already apprehensive to buying. So if you just show, hey man, I want to learn more about you and what you're looking to achieve, not how the weather is where you're living, they're going to know you're serious and that you're, if you kind of seem like you're busy, they're going to think, oh man, this guy's got a lot going on and, he's getting right to the point. This is good. Because they want to get to the point. They want to know what the price is, more or less, right? So if you look like you're charging through and you're going to get in there, they know they're going to get to what the price is faster, then they're, more likely to kind of charge right ahead with you. So the greeting, typically, if it were me, hey, this is Joe calling. You posed some interest about the online coaching. How are you today? Dan, Jake, Sally, whatever their name is. I say, good. How are you? Great. That's awesome. And I would not ask things like, do not ask things like, is now still a good time? Right? Because if they say no, then what are you going to do? Reschedule the call? No. They scheduled this call or they picked up the phone, right? So if they picked up the phone, they're prepared to be on the phone. If they didn't want to talk on the phone, they wouldn't talk on the phone. So have a little more confidence in that and just get into it. Get into your pitch. And we'll talk about what to do to make sure that you can do that more effectively at the end. But quick greeting, and then you get into a phase of fact finding. So you want to ask them and say, hey, I know you showed some interest in my program, and I'd like to learn a little bit more about what you're looking to achieve. And they're going to say something to the effect of, well, I eat pretty good and I work out pretty often and I want to lose like 5 pounds, but I'm totally stuck right now and I don't know what to do and blah, blah, blah. Right? So, okay. So, the whole point of the fact finding phase is to figure out 1, what they want to achieve, right? And 2, what they've already been using that's been effective and what hasn't been effective. Why? Because you want to tailor how you're going to present your stuff to them. You don't want to go, like if you've ever been out and like maybe you went to buy a new car or maybe you own a house or whatever, you go to buy something, right? I actually had this happen the other day. I was talking to a woman on the phone who was selling software to me, and she just was like, did the greeting, hey, how you doing, blah, 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 and then went right into her pitch and didn't ask me for 25 minutes, did not ask me a single question about my business, what I do, what I wanted to get out of the software, anything like that. So the whole time, all I was thinking in the back of my mind was, okay, well, none of what she's saying is like really pertinent to what I need. It's not important. So they're more likely to tune out. So if you start the conversation with asking what they want, not only does it show that you care, but 2, it shows you what they want. So you can tailor how you present your services to them. For instance, they might say something to the effect of, you know what? Let's say you offer nutrition and training, right? They might say something to the effect of, I have my macros down. I eat the same time every day. I'm sticking to the numbers. My numbers are good, but my workouts are not good. Well, when you go to present your stuff, you're not going to harp on the nutrition piece. They have already got that figured out. You need your presentation to fill the gaps that they show you when you're doing your fact finding, right? So you're going to ask, what are you looking to achieve? Because you want to know what they want to do. And then you're going to ask what they're currently using that works and what doesn't. And in this time, they might say something to the effect of, oh, I've worked with this coach, or I've tried this program or whatever. And there's some red flags that might pop up during this time that you want to keep in mind. If you find the person that you're talking to on the phone is blaming everything, like, oh, the program this and the macros that and the blah, 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 and they're never taking responsibility for the experience, right? Maybe they're the ones that most likely they're the ones that were cheating on their diet or weren't doing the workouts or whatever. If you find they're blaming everything and they're not taking any responsibility, you kind of already know that this person's going to be a bit of a pain in the ass to work with. Now, if you're just starting out, you should take every possible chance you have to get a client and get the ball rolling. If you've been doing this a little while and you're watching this and you decide, hey, you know what, you're right, I don't want to work with every single person I come across, then these are the red flags to look out for. But at the very least, you know what to expect. So it's helping you set your expectations as well. So you go through your fact finding, 5 or 10 minutes, hear about what they're doing. Don't let them get off the path, right? If you figure, and this is kind of like the Jordan Belfort Wolf of Wall Street thing, right? He calls it the straight line system. So if you go from A to B, A is the beginning of the sale, B is the close, right? You want to go A to B in a straight line, fast as possible, and not veer off the path. Fact finding can be a time where people go all over creation. They start talking about, oh, this thing at work and my cousin said this and blah, blah, blah. You want to try and get them back on the path so you can keep going through. So they might say like, yeah, I noticed, and then my wife said this to me and blah. So, okay, that's great. But, I say, okay, sir, I see what you're saying. Let's get back to the diet piece. How come that didn't work for you? What did you find was tough for you to do? Or, what did you have trouble with, whatever, and get them back on the conversation. And get whatever information you need. So figure out ahead of time whatever services you're already offering, which we'll have another video on that. Figure out the things that you're probably going to want to ask along the way to drive out some information from them so you know how to tailor your presentation. Next is the actual presentation itself. Notice this is shorter than the fact-finding thing. You should have now, and meanwhile, you're taking notes of all this, right? So by the time you get to your presentation, you have a short list of all the things that are important to them. So you go into your presentation saying, hey, you're going to transition out of fact-finding into the presentation. So you get all your questions answered. They start to kind of slow down with the information they're providing because they've kind of run out of stuff to say. And you say, hey, that all sounds great. This is really helpful for me in order to be able to, tailor my stuff to you and show you what I do. And then you're going to ask permission and say, hey, if it's okay with you, how about I get into explaining how I can help you out getting to whatever their goal is. And they'll inevitably say, yeah, that sounds great. And then you hop into your presentation. Notice I haven't talked about price once yet, right? Price hasn't come up. If you initiate the whole conversation based on price, all they're going to think about the entire time is how much it costs, and they're not going to pay attention to the value you're providing them. So you've done the greeting, you've done some fact finding, and now you get into your presentation, which is now going to be tailored to the facts that you found in the previous phase. So now you get into your presentation, and you can say, hey, Johnny CrossFitter or whatever, I know you have a great training program you're working on, you're doing CrossFit, that's fantastic, but it sounds like your nutrition is a little lacking, and so we offer X, Y, and Z services around nutrition that can help you achieve boom, 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 and these are their goals that they said earlier, yada, 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 and you explain how you do it, right, and you sort of pour on how awesome this service is you've created, and just what you're willing to offer them, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, pretty straightforward so far. You're about probably 15, maybe 20 minutes into the call, and they've already been able to understand that you care, right? You've asked them about them plenty, and you showed them a product that's going to solve their problem. That's what you're trying to do, right? You're selling a result. You're not selling your product. What you want to start to do is gauge their temperature, see how they feel about what you're doing. And this is going to come in the form of trial closes and labels. So I'm going to touch on these two right now. So you might hear, you're going to see on the slide here, it says the close, right? And trial closes. These are two different things. Trial closes are set up to get someone's opinion, to gauge their temperature, see where they're at with your presentation, your sales call. The close is to get a decision. You want the person to say yes or no. sign on the dotted line, etc. And you want to do trial closes prior to the actual close so you can gauge how committed they are to making a decision one way or another. So you might go through your presentation and say, yeah, we offer this service and it's going to give you this, and help you get this result. How does that sound? And they might say, oh, it sounds great, right? Okay, so it's positive, they're good. Or they might say, I don't really understand what you're offering. And then you can kind of go from there. And you want to do things like that. So you want to use little questions like that along the way to gauge their opinion of how the presentation is going. Now you're going to say, hey, what do you think of my presentation so far? Ask them about them, right? Hey, how would you rate this on a scale of 1 to 10 and being able to possibly fix your problem or get you the results you want or whatever? And they say, oh, it looks like about like an 8 or 9. I don't know, it sounds good. Okay, great. They're pretty much roped in. You can also ask them and sort of do like trial closes in the fact-finding phase about their previous experiences. So you can say, hey, okay, I know you worked with XY program, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, how effective did you think that program was? And they might say a 2 or a 3. Well, if you know what they offer, then you know what to focus on when it comes to your presentation, and then you kind of inevitably know that their answer to that question about your program would be better because you're filling the gaps that program had. Labels are another great tool. So I learned this one from Chris Voss, who's a retired FBI hostage negotiator. He has a book called Never Split the Difference. It's fantastic. I've used this like in my professional career, sales, all this kind of stuff to be able to get people to open up and talk. And it's not, you're not manipulating anybody. You're just basically expanding your ability to fact find. So when it comes to labels, these are a tremendous tool in the toolbox. Basically, they're going to help you to show the person that you're listening to what they're saying, and it's going to help you kind of just uncover some more and get them talking. So when you're in your fact-finding phase or even in your presentation, the person might say something to the effect of like, I was working with X and Y program, and it was so hard to follow the diet. And you have this, when they say that, you might have this gut reaction like, oh man, it sounds like they're really trying to get their diet right, but they're having some difficulty. And so you're going to label that feeling. You're going to label what you're feeling in your gut, right? So when they come back and said like, yeah, I was really frustrated with my coach, you could say, hey, it sounds like, and then you're going to say whatever the label is. So, hey, it sounds like you're really dedicated and you're just having some trouble with your coach. And they'll say, yeah, it was this, they said this to me, and then they left me hanging, and they didn't get back to my emails when I wrote them. Okay, well now it's not the program, it's the fact that the coach wasn't communicating with them. And now you can say, hey, okay, later in your presentation, we actually offer, unlimited email, unlimited text message. You can call me anytime. Like you can start to fill those gaps. So labels are a great way when the person is talking about their experience to get them to open up and just expand a little more on what they experience and how you can fix it. So I know this is a mouthful. I'm having you drink out of a fire hose right now, but just to recap. So you got your greeting, quick introduction, who you are, and then you hop right into fact finding. Hey, Sally CrossFitter, Sally Paleo person, whatever. Tell me about what you're looking to achieve. What programs you use currently? What have you used in the past? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? They're going to tell you all this stuff, right? Keep an eye open if they start to blame everything but themselves for their results, because then you kind of gauge how it's going to go if and when you decide to work with them. And based on what they tell you, you're going to tailor your presentation to the pieces that they either had the most trouble with in the past or were non-existent in the programs that they used in the past. You can do an overview, say, yeah, we offer all these things, and here are the ones we do especially well, or here are the ones that we think would best suit you based on what you've given us, and just fill those gaps, right? Because they're looking for that solution. Along the way, you're going to use trial closes. Scale of 1 to 10. What did you think of your last program? How do you feel about what we've talked about so far? Blah, blah, blah. Just get an idea of how they feel. Use labels to show them that you're listening, show that you care, and to get them to talk a little bit more about what, to expand on what they're talking about. And once all that looks good, you get through your presentation, you're going to get into the close, right? So you finish presenting, you say, how does all that sound? They say, hey, that sounds great. You go, awesome. And let's we can get into the pricing and how all that looks. And they say, okay. And then you're going to get into whatever your price is for your service. Now, typically, if you're doing a high ticket offer, let's say you offer coaching for, just for sake of example, and ease of math, you offer coaching for $100 a month. But it's a 3-month program, so it's $300. I'm not going to go, okay, so the price is $300 and it's this, and blah, blah, blah. That's a big number for that person to swallow. what I would do instead is I would say, okay, we do a 12-week program. It's $25 a week. And we're going to be doing all this stuff we talked about, and we can get you going, when are you looking to start? And they're going to say, oh, in their head, oh, it's only $25 a week. That's cheaper than going out to dinner. Okay, that's easy. And then, hey, I can start Monday. Perfect. And then you go from there. And I would try and do that. Typically when I do it on the phone, I try to keep the number, the price number, to a smaller quantity with a period of time that's very easily digestible for them. So typically it's, hey, it's X amount of dollars per week, because that's going to be a lower amount than your total cost. And we do, your full program. So it's X amount of dollars per week, and we do it with a X amount of weeks minimum. So we charge $25 a week with a 12-week minimum. And they'll say, okay, $25 a week, not that big a deal. They're not going to be able to, typically, not going to be able to do the math fast enough to say, oh, that's $300. Okay, they're not going to do that. They're going to say, oh, it's only $25, and they're going to relate it to that smaller amount. And they're just more likely to say yes. So that's kind of how it goes from there. You might have people, we could do a whole video on objections, but you might have someone who says, hey, I have to talk to my wife about this, or I have to think about it, or whatever. There's tons of resources out there. I'll probably put some links below to help you with the objections. But typically, if somebody's saying that, it's you haven't done a couple things. It's not really them, it's you. You either haven't demonstrated enough value, which is 99% of the time that's the case. You haven't shown that you can solve their problem on the call. So if that's the case, then you need to say, okay, well, what about my program would you want to see that could solve that problem? Or, hey, if your wife was here sitting with you, what would she say? Or something like that, just to keep the conversation going. And if they truly don't want to buy it, they don't want to buy it. And you can always follow up with them later. So this could have been a video in and of itself. We got more to cover. So these are the basic sales fundamentals and phases. So you can go back and watch this again. If you have questions, comment below, because I know I was babbling for a while, but let's move on. The next is time management, and I'll try and keep this quick because I know this could be its own video in and of itself, but this is not quite what you think it is. It's going to be a different time management than you're probably used to, and we're going to talk about how it relates to hours, minutes, and seconds. So I have a little picture here of a clock, like an old school clock, right? Everyone's got digital now, it's all on their phone, but when it comes to hours, minutes, and seconds, picture these three hands moving on the clock, right? Obviously the red smallest hand is the seconds hand, which is going to be moving, if you just stare at it, moving the fastest, right? The most frequently. The minute hand is a little thicker, right? Sticks out a little more. It's bigger for sure, but it's going to move a little slower. And the hour hand is the thickest one, the biggest hand. It's not the longest one, but it's the thickest one, and it's going to move the slowest of all those things, right? Now, most people, when they want to start a diet, right, they're like, I want to lose 50 pounds. 50 pounds is like moving the hour hand, right? The minute hand is like making sure, week to week you stay on top of your stuff. And the second hand is like making sure you eat the right meals at the right times every day. Yeah. The second hand is always going to be those smaller tasks, but it takes doing those smaller tasks more frequently for the bigger hands to start to move. The same thing applies when it comes to your sales. So everyone's like, oh, I'm just going to get 50 clients and then I can quit my job and blah, blah, blah. That's the hour hand trying to move. You can't hop on the clock and just force the hour hand to move. You have to do what the seconds hand requires, which is the little stuff. I'm going to talk about in a second what you can do to keep that moving, but you need to focus on the little things, right? Reaching out to people, following up with people, answering the phone, making those cold calls, getting your stuff out there, engaging with people on social media. You have to do all those little things, and that's going to make the minute and the hour hands move, and you'll start scooping up clients before you know it. And this is why the second hand is so important, is do those little tasks, focus on those little tasks, and the little tasks will add up to very big tasks. And if you're not sure where to start, I'm going to cover that here in a second in this last slide where we talk about taking action. So again, I did a video on how to get your first few clients. And once you have them, that's great. You have some testimonials, some social proof. This is stuff you can do to get things rolling and use what we talked about in the sales video today to get more clients. It's one thing to say like, oh yeah, I have great customer service and blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't mean shit if you don't have customers to service in the first place. So sales should be your focus. Getting out there and getting people, getting clients, and helping more people should always be your focus. And here's things you can do for free today to get more clients. Texting campaigns. I talked about this in another video. You could text every person in your phone and just don't ask them to sign up with you, but say, hey, Dan, I've got this new fitness program I'm doing online with folks. I'm looking for people to sign up, or do you know anyone who might be interested? Right? You're just asking if they have anyone they know might be interested, and everybody knows somebody. Facebook messages, you can do the same exact message. Reach out to people on Facebook. You can email, you can do phone calls. You could even do a SurveyMonkey survey. You post it on your Facebook wall or your Instagram and say, hey, I'm doing this survey. I'm looking to complete building out my training program, and I want to get your advice. And then at the end, you capture the email, you follow up with them and say, hey, I'm going to offer 50% discount to those of you who did the survey or whatever. Referrals, those people that you helped initially all know somebody as well, and they already like the stuff you're doing, hopefully. So ask them if they know anyone who might be interested. And practice. So if we go back to our sales fundamentals, is practice each of these things. Figure out what you're going to say to somebody when you first greet them. Figure out what you're going to ask for when you do your fact finding, right? Make sure you're not taking them too far off the path. Keep it concise, keep it simple, but figure out what you need to know in order to make sure that your presentation is tailored to what they need. Try those trial closes and labels, and don't get nervous about closing and asking for money. You're providing a phenomenal service. You're going to help these people get the results they want, and it's okay to get paid for that. You can't just do it for free forever, because you're going to burn out and hate what you're doing. So don't get intimidated by that. Now, I know this is a long ass video. Went through a ton of stuff here. Happy to make any smaller videos to help clarify a lot of this stuff, but comment below if you have any questions at all, any other things you want to see. Like I said, I'm doing this completely for free for you guys. So, I want to make sure it's tailored to people who need it, and they're getting the answers that they want as they go through this. So again, thank you for watching. Give the video a like, and make sure you subscribe so you never miss a video, and we'll see you next time.